if I don't get mad, if I control my anger, if I control my regret, I'm getting further. I'm getting more funk. You okay? You gonna die?
I'm okay, yeah. Sorry. Hey there, trippers. Welcome to episode 23 of Tripping Through Transformation. My guest today is Ben Smith. Ben has played a significant role in my life. He was a catalyst for my physical fitness journey. Ben also wrote a series of books called Killing Goliath. I had the opportunity to read the first one, and in that book, Ben details his upbringing, being a black child at the time, adopted into a white family, some of the things that he saw, some of the racism that he faced, some of the struggles he had, being beaten by his brother and growing up having to face that on a daily basis, becoming a bouncer and seeing violence even more, getting into fights all the time, getting addicted to drugs, drinking, that kind of lifestyle, fighting for his daughter, something that I can relate to, and how he overcame it all and decided that he would help other young men who are facing similar struggles. And that's how he came about founding the Goliath Foundation. So like I said, he's got the books, Killing Goliath. He's also got a podcast with his daughter Willow called Loving Goliath. And it's also got the website, The Everyday Guy, where, young men, and I guess older men as well, can reach out to him for mentoring, or, they can look at some of the materials that he has on there as tools to kind of help guide them or maybe seek some resources for themselves. So I was a little under the weather for my interview. So then Ben did most of the talking, but like I said, Ben's got a great story, very authentic and raw. He doesn't hold any punches. And, I was happy to be able to just sit back and kind of absorb the story that he had to share and the messages behind them. So without further ado, balance, drop the beat. Welcome to Tripping Through Transformation. I'm your host, Guillaume Poirier, and I'm inviting you on a journey that will expand your outlook on life.
Balance makes it bang, bang.
Join me as we delve into the realms of mental health, resilience, personal growth, community, and alternative healing. Through personal narratives and expert insights, we'll explore the transformative power of shared stories. Get ready to escape from narrow perceptions and dive into a world of diverse perspectives. Ben, thanks for joining me on Tripping Through Transformation, man. It's been a long time coming. How are you doing?
Good, man. How are you doing? Well, I know you're a little bit under the weather, so.
Yeah, it's been about 5 days now, so I think I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. But it's been a rough few days. I've been looking forward to having you on the show for a while. Like, I connected probably back in 2003, I say, maybe late 2002, 2022, 23. Yeah. I was off by 20 years.
But what?
2022, 2023. Yeah. And, I'll just start off the show by mentioning the impact you've had on me. Not just in like my fitness. My fitness alone has been huge thanks to you. One of the first videos I sent you, I think, was me trying to do a squat and my knees were crackling like popcorn. And you said, just stick to the basics, do some chair squats, do some pull and some push exercises and get from there. And those three things have led me on a journey that, like, now I go to the gym several times a week, and it's been great. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And your book as well, Facing Goliath, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that and, the Goliath Foundation and everything you're about. But your book has really enabled me to open up about some of my own demons and my issues and talk about it with my coaches and mentors. And it's helped me navigate through that and kind of work through it. So I'm glad to have you on. And I want to hear all about the Goliath Foundation, your podcast, your book, your mini series that I hear you're launching, or is it? I don't know if that's a thing.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a little mini series as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to hear all about it, man. Where do you want to start?
I don't know. What do you want to? So actually, I just wanted to say, you read the first part of Killing Goliath. You never read the whole thing, though, right? You only read the first part, right?
No, I
You
only
did?
read the first book. So it's
Yeah.
Killing Goliath, because I think do you have Facing Goliath as well?
Well, I have Killing Goliath. I mean, there are some things about the naming or whatever, but I have Killing Goliath is actually 3 books in one. So I said I broke it into 3 books, but I never really released the other 2 books. So the one that you read is The Day I Tried to Live, right? So
Right.
of the Killing Goliath series, you read The Day I Tried to Live, and then after that is Monsters in the Closet, and then after the third of that series is Killing Goliath. So that's the full book. But so you read just the first of the series, so you never got to see what happened with the character.
No, I saw, your transition. Basically, you talked a little bit about your childhood, and you talked about your time as a bouncer and those challenges. But yeah, I think you mentioned that some of your other books talk more about your boxing career and whatnot, right?
Yeah, well, I say the character because, as you know, I wrote it like it was a fictional character, but it's just my story. It's just it was a lot easier to write it like as if it wasn't me, right? Because it was like, as you know, it's pretty graphic and gritty, right? But
Yeah.
yeah. So the next part is much more focused on the boxing, and then finally the third part is about just finally finding like being able to walk past all that violence and trauma and everything else that kind of made me into that boxer or into that bouncer and that kind of guy who's immersed in this toxic environment, being able to just kind of, you know what, I'm moving on, right? So that's what the whole book was about, right? That was the journey of myself through that whole series of 3 different books. But anyways, yeah, so there's that. But I mean, there's a lot of things going on. I mean, now I have the Everyday Guy journal. I've got so many things going on, and all of it is a reflection of the growth of the person who I was back in back in my 20s, and when I wrote, when all those incidents happened from Killing Goliath. I mean, everything I'm doing now, the online program, working with people, uplifting youth, doing the Everyday Guy journal, the just all the different things are a reflection of struggling so hard to find peace from all that trauma, the violence, the addiction, the this and the that. I mean, that's the gift of hardship and trauma, as you and I have talked about before, is that when you get past it, there's such an amazingly bright future ahead of you because you have so much life to draw from, right? And I always try to express that to people who are really feel like they're struggling, is that the harder the struggle, the greater the reward when you come out. You just have to find a way to get out of the trauma or get out of the struggle so that you could start focusing on the benefit of it. And then you'll be like, wow, life is amazing, right?
Was there something that pushed you to find that way on the other side? Like, I know you talk about your daughter in your book and how you went looking for her at one point. So did that push you to kind of find your way out of that struggle and that anger and violence and come out the other side?
Well, there's so many phases, right? There are so many phases of it for me because, again, it started for me as a kid, right? So as I go through, I mean, the book starts shortly after I went to pick up my daughter. She was just gone, right? So that's kind of where the book starts. So, like in that context, the first one really was when my mom died. My mom died a couple months later, right? So my life was a mess, and again, I'm just talking about kind of one of the first transformations for me was at that time. My life was a mess. I got restraining my ex-girlfriend gave me got a restraining order, so the police came. They kicked me out of my home. I had nowhere to go. I had all my stuff. All I could take was my clothes. I had my clothes in the back of my little car. I'm sleeping on people's couches. I had to sleep on my dad's couch. I was a drug addict. I was like a drug dealer. I was just immersed in this crazy, like toxic environment in this really crazy nightclub, and all this stuff was going on. And then and I started to, I started to get these random phone calls from my daughter. I didn't know where she lived. I had to really learn how to suppress my anger so that I could kind of, because I'd pick up the phone and it'd be her mom, and she like from an undisclosed number, and I'd be like so angry because it's like, you took my daughter. You took my daughter. Like, how could you do that? And I'd get mad and she'd hang up. And then I just have to hope and pray that I would get a call again. So I had to learn really quickly to suppress my anger. And once I started to kind of realize and see the impact of suppressing my anger, it's like, oh, okay, now I can talk. She's let me talk to my daughter on the phone, and then I started meeting them in a random, not meeting at random. I had to drive like 4 hours to go see my daughter in a Baskin Robbins, I think it was, just for like a half hour, and then her and her the guy that she ran away with would leave, and of course I could have grabbed my daughter and said, I'm taking her with me, but like, then what? The police would have come after me, they would have grabbed her or whatever. So I had to really like, okay, how am I going to find enough forgiveness in my heart that I can move this nugget of hope forward, this nugget of hope that I can rebuild a relationship with my daughter forward. So I was kind of doing that. I was kind of like starting to kind of put together the pieces, like, okay, if I don't get mad, if I control my anger, if I control my regret, I'm getting further. I'm getting more phone calls. You okay? You gonna die?
I'm okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm choking on my spit here. Go ahead.
Anyways, I was learning very, very quickly by when I get mad to hang up. When I suppress my anger and I just like, you know what am I focusing on? I'm focusing on having a relationship with my daughter, my love for my daughter. Oh, that's getting me more phone calls, longer phone calls. Now I'm starting to talk with her. Now I'm starting to see her. So there's a real transition that was going on in my life where I'm just seeing the impact of like anger and rage and regret and like thoughts of revenge. Like, how could they do that to me? Versus, you know what, love, forgiveness, focus on what I want. It was just such a tactile experience. I could see the effects in my life. I could see that, okay, now I'm not getting as much, because I was knocking out a couple guys a week, right? Because I was in the crazy place, and it was just like, I was so filled with anger. All I wanted to do was put a bullet in my head. And I kept saying before, because I was always high on cocaine. I was a cokehead, like a full-on 24-hour-a-day cokehead. And I would just say, and I wouldn't really sleep much because I would work full-time days in this nightclub as a bouncer, a crazy nightclub, like scrappy nightclub. And then I would work full-time days as a sheet metal worker. So I'd work, so I'd just like find little snatches of sleep here and there. But if you're a cokehead, you could do that, right? And that's what I was doing. Anyways, as I started to find some relief from my anger and my rage and stuff like that, I started to see how it was calming me down. I was able to kind of like slowly get a little bit of sleep here, more sleep here and there, and I started to see the effects. I'm talking with my daughter more, so it was a real learning experience for me to understand the process of moving past like real hardcore struggle and trauma. And then when my mom died, so my mom was sick and she was in a coma. And I remember right before she went into a coma, like I don't even want to go into the details, but the year before this had happened, I hadn't been able to see my daughter without unsupervised visits. I had been in a really bad work accident. My home had been broken into. Everything I owned was stolen. Like everything that could go wrong went wrong. And I felt like, and they were saying I was in a bad work accident where they were like, you're not walk again. This could have killed you. And nobody reached out to me. Nobody reached out to me. And now I look back, it's like I didn't ask for help, but I got admitted to the hospital for a suicide attempt after taking a bunch of pills, like almost a bottle of painkillers, because I'm like, this is just too crazy. I need rest. I got to get out of this. And so I went to the hospital for the suicide attempt. And anyways, so it was a crazy year. And the last thing I said before my mom, after all that stuff had gone on, and then I went to pick up my daughter after winning my rights in court to see my daughter 3 out of every 7 days. I won my right twice in court after a year-long battle. And then I went to pick her up and she was gone. And I remember my mom was freaking out at me because I wouldn't go find her. Like, not that I wouldn't go find her, but I didn't go find her. I was like, screaming at my mom. I'm like, where do I go? Where do I go? It's a big world out there. Do you realize I have no money left? I have nothing left. I've been broken, I've been broken in every way possible. And you're telling me that I gotta go find my daughter? Where were you when I was dying? Where were you when I was in the hospital? Where were you when I was like wondering if I was gonna walk again? When my home has been broken into and I'm freezing in 40 below weather and nobody knows, nobody cares. I'm 10 hours away and nobody reached out. Nobody. And I told my mother, and I don't want to be a potty mouth here, but I remember screaming at her because she's like, you gotta find your daughter. I'm like, go fuck yourself. Like, fuck you. Where were you when I was getting my head beat in every day? Where were you when I was crying out for help? Where were you when I needed somebody? You weren't there. You weren't there. I was like, go fuck yourself. And I stormed away. And that was the last time I spoke to her. So then she went into a coma, and a few months later she died. But while she was in a coma, diabetic coma, because she was dying, we kind of knew she was dying, right? But still, it was kind of hard, right? But then when she passed away, I mean, I was working at the nightclub, and you read about this, but I was working at the nightclub, and a girl had left her phone number for me at the checkout, and so it was like 2:30 in the morning. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to party because I'd always be partying after the bar and all this stuff. I was like, I'm not going to party. I'm starting to make some headway. I'm starting to make some headway with my daughter. I'm starting to see her a little bit more now. Like, again, at the Baskin Robbins, I could see my things kind of turning around. So I was kind of in a pretty good space. As far as like, I'm moving on, I'm starting to move on. I'm still a cokehead, I'm still a drug dealer, I'm all these things. But that night I called that girl and I was like, hey, I'll meet you tomorrow. And that was about 2:30 in the morning. And then I went home to my dad's house because I was sleeping on his couch because I had nowhere else to go, right? Unless I was going home with somebody from the bar, which I did. I would just sleep on people's houses, a lot of girls' houses. A lot of girls would go to girls' places, like. But also my dad's couch, and my dad was waiting out for me. It's like, your mom died tonight. And I remember just like I remember my knees kind of gave away a little bit. I'm not sure why, but my knees kind of gave away. And my dad was a big guy, and he just kind of grabbed me, and he just kind of held me. I'm this big boxer. I mean, this big, tough, super tough, scrappy guy. And my knees kind of gave. My dad kind of held me, and I remember my dad holding me at like 2:30 or 3 in the morning or whatever it was. And I just said, you know what? This can't be who I am. This can't be who I am. And I stayed up all night thinking that this can't be who I am. This can't be, my mom can't be right that I'm this piece of garbage, right? I kind of always felt like she thought I was just like a pain in the ass and a waste of this is the way I felt, just because of the way my life had gone, right? And I said, I can't be this person. I can't be this person. So I kind of stayed up all morning looking at the ceiling, thinking I can't be this person. And then I went out with that girl who left her number. So I called her. Like I said, I got off work at 2:30. I called her at 2:30 a.m. Went home. My dad told me around 3 a.m. that my mom died. I stayed up kind of looking at the ceiling and just thinking, I got to turn the page. And then about 8 o'clock that night, I went and picked that girl up, and I was like, hey, let's just go to the bar or whatever, or let's just go have a drink. And I was very subdued. I mean, I was like, my mom had just died, so I was pretty subdued place. I'm like, I got to change my life. And so we went out, and I never really mentioned anything. And then just suddenly we were talking about family. I'm like, yeah, my mom died last night. And I remember her name was Mel. I remember Mel was just looking at me just like, what? You're here with me? Your mom just died? Or what are you doing? And I remember, and I wrote you read about this, right? I remember it was so weird because we were shooting darts and just casually having a nice time. I was pretty subdued, like I said, having been up all night thinking like, this can't be the guy I am. This can't be the guy I am. And I remember sitting there, and because I was a chain smoker. I was a hardcore smoker. So I'm sitting there, I'm smoking. I'm like, yeah, my mom died. And I remember I just kind of was smoking. I put my hand down and I said that. And then when I looked up, it was like my whole life changed because Mel, she was a beautiful girl. She's looking at me and her eyes are starting to water. She was like, your mom died? You're here with me? And she grabbed my hand. And I remember her grabbing my hand. And I was like, it was like that moment just, I swear to God, her grabbing my hand was like my life changed because it's like, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Like this girl, I don't even know this girl. She's a stranger to me. And she cares. Like she cares. I could feel the love radiating from her just holding my hand. And it just my whole life changed from that point. It was in a matter of a very short amount of time. I just, I was seeing her more. I started getting like rapidly starting to see my daughter more. I quit all that stuff. One day I just kind of said no more on the cocaine. I just kind of gave what I had to somebody at a party. New Year's. It was New Year's in 1994 or 95, I think it was. New Year's Eve, and I get been pulled over by the police because I was drunk and whatever. They confiscated my car for the night, but they never took the cocaine that I had. So I had all this cocaine on me, and I called Mel from a payphone because I didn't have a cell phone back then. It's 1994 or whatever it was, and I'm like, hey, could you pick me up? So she picked me up, and she took me to a party that she was at, and I don't know, it's something about Mel and something about the whole buildup of like, Mom, I can't be this person anymore, and feeling Mel's love and seeing that if I just kept on this track of forgiving and not let my anger get the best of me, I can rebuild a relationship with my daughter. And then I said to this guy, I'm like, hey, he was jonesing. It was all jonesing for coke. I could tell it's New Year's, right? I'm like, hey, do you want this? Do you want this? He's like, what? And it wasn't a ton. It was maybe an 8-ball or something like that, right? But I just gave it to him. I'm like, yeah, here, just have it, man. It's yours. And that was the last time I ever did cocaine. And and from that point on, and then me and Mel went to my dad's place because my dad ended up staying at my mom's place to watch her dog because my mom was dead now. So somebody had to watch her dog. And my sister was in Seattle. So, because my sister lives with my mom. So me and Mel went to my dad's place and and that was it. We just kind of spent the first of the year together, and it just, I never went back, right? I never went back to that guy. And that's why, and so that was one of the first real transformative moments that really happened in my life as an adult. And there were several, and that was a pretty intense one. But when I'm talking with people, who are in real deep struggle and real deep trauma or whatever, I always try to get them to understand as best I can that your transformation is one decision. It's one decision. All you need to do is make one decision. You got to try to find a way to find a glimmer of hope so that you can make that decision. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. I can't be this person. I'm going to go that way. I've been going this way and it's not working for me. I'm going that way. And so, again, I have a lot of experience. That was the first time when I was like, 24 years old. I've had multiple times in my life up until I was almost 40, where I could see that when trauma is building, or when you're suffering, or when you're really battling with something, whether it's addiction or whether it's some kind of heavy duty problem that's really kind of bringing you down, your solution is just one decision away. So that's all my work in the world. All of my work in the world is try to get people to get to that place where they're so self-assured and at ease and at faith with themselves that when they make those decisions, or maybe let me word that differently. My help in my work in the world is to try to get people to make the shift so that they can kind of move beyond the struggle that they want to go, they want to overcome, and begin to really embody a feeling of self-assurance, ease, and faith. Because when you have that, you have everything, right? And I've learned that, you know, happiness and everything that you want in life is really an inside job. You know, you gotta create it from the inside out, and then the outside world kind of reflects it back to you, right? But yeah, you know, just people. I really love being able to help people just see the other side. It's like, yeah, you're really struggling right now, but you matter, and you're a worthy human being, and you're strong. You're here. You didn't give up. You're here. You know, you're a fighter. You have this resilience. Now, what are you going to do with it? You're going to help people. You're going to move to the other side. You're going to be this amazing inspiration to the world. But you got to make that decision.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my gift in the world, is being able to do that with people.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while since I've read your book, but one of the things I remember is that although, you know, you and I have had different lives, like drastically different lives, I could still draw a lot of parallels between like your experiences and mine, you know. And anger is a topic that comes up a lot, and it's actually something I'm going to discuss in another episode with another guest that's going to be coming on in a few weeks. But anger is never like, there's always a reason for anger, right? It's not what I'm trying to say is there's always like an underlying cause that creates anger. You know what I mean? So for me, what I discovered, the times when I would get angry was usually times when I felt hurt, or I felt unappreciated, or I felt maybe, I don't know, unloved. It was never because I was mean or, you know, a hateful person, right? So I remember a little about your story, and it seems to me like you've had a lot of reasons to be angry from early on. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're adopted, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Into a white family, and your brother would like beat on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that couldn't have been easy to deal with, like coming into a family, and then the people that are supposed to be there to like to protect you and to care for you, they're actually like taking it out on you. I could see why somebody would get angry with that. And then
Yeah.
and that's from a young age, and then you grow with that from the start. So
Well, I mean, I could talk about that. Do you want me to talk a little bit about that, or?
it's whatever you're willing to share. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, it was like, so when I'm talking about trauma, I mean, again, I come from a background of trauma. Just I am adopted, and because my brother is part Italian and part black, so he's quite dark skinned, but he looks very Italian, right? And when my parents adopted us, again, I only know this from my dad saying, but we were adopted in Seattle. My brother and me are from different families, and my sister's from a different family in Canada. But my brother and I were both from Seattle, and my dad was with my brother in a store. And again, my brother is dark skinned, but he looks Italian, except he's dark skinned. But because he was dark skinned, my dad was in the store with him, and I might have been there. I don't remember. But somebody walked up to my dad, who's like Icelandic and Scottish, right? He's very white.
Yeah.
And because he's carrying this little dark-skinned kid, somebody walked up to him and was like, "That's disgusting," and spit right in his face. So there was that kind of environment. And then him and my mom woke up one day, and somebody was burning a cross on the lawn. Like somebody was burning a cross on our lawn. And so my mom was like, "We got to get out of here." So that's why we left Seattle, because my mom got scared because somebody was burning a cross on our lawn for these two white people to be adopting, a black kid. Well, two black kids really. So anyway, so there's
your brother adopted as well. Your brother,
yeah, we're all
okay.
Me, my brother, and my sister are adopted from different families.
Gotcha.
But the crazy part of the drama that was so confusing for me, that I found so hard to understand, is, again, my brother's darker than I am, but he has straight hair. He has like a thin nose, like he looks Italian. Everything about him is Italian except that he's dark skinned, right?
Yeah.
So again, he's my older brother, so I think he probably he probably internalized that stuff with the burning cross and my dad being spit on and stuff like that. And he's very intelligent, like super, like almost genius intelligent. And I think he probably just even as a baby internalized it. So as soon as he could, he was like, it's the 70s, right? He was like, he would be calling me a nigger. He'd be calling me a nigger, right? In my own house. And I was like, I didn't understand it. But then because he did, all of our friends and all of his friends or whatever from as early as, because I had the curly hair and I clearly looked black, except I'm light skinned, right? Especially as a kid, like with my afro and all this stuff. I'm the opposite of my brother. Everything about me looks black, except that I'm light skinned. Whereas my brother, everything about him looks Italian, except that he's dark skinned. So him and his friends and everything, because he did it, like it was like, I was always being called a nigger, and it just really, I couldn't understand it. But then my brother was also super, super violent. Like he had this harsh aggression. And again, probably a lot of it is the toxicity of being in Seattle and all this the stuff that just as a baby witnessing, internalizing. And so we're always fighting, and he's really, really tough. And so him and his friends and his tough friends, we'd be fighting all the time, every day. And I'd be getting my head beat in, and they'd always be like, just calling me the N-word as they're kicking the crap out of me. And so I had all this anger. And when my parents divorced when I was in grade 3, so me and my brother went and lived with my dad in a real like shithole of a home, and my dad didn't know what to do. He couldn't control it. He couldn't control my brother. So it was like a free for all. It was like just this crazy environment where it's like, for me personally, my trauma just came from just like, I don't understand why nobody cares that every day I'm being called, the N-word and getting the crap beat out of me. Like it was everywhere at school. It was on the way to school. It was at home. There's nowhere for me to go. Nobody's stopping it. Like it was crazy. So it just, so much of my trauma or so much of my aggression and my just that experience that I wrote about in the beginning pages of the book that you read, where this guy is just, I say this guy, Daniel, I wrote it as Daniel, but it's me, right? But just so beat up on life, like so tired of just like, okay, oh, you think I'm a piece of garbage? You think I'm just a nigger? You think I'm not worth it? You think I'm not worth protecting it? Well, now you got to deal with me. And I'm not going to let anybody gets in my way, and you can all go fuck yourself. That was kind of my attitude, right? It's just like, you know what? You couldn't break me. You couldn't break me by forgetting about me. You couldn't break me by not protecting me when I cried out for help, when I literally was crying. Like, why is nobody helping me? And so, okay, now you got to deal with me. And that's where that book starts, right? So I have experienced a lot of trauma as a younger person and growing up and trying to navigate my way through it. But I don't experience any of it anymore. I only experience joy and love and peace because I see the value. I see the blessing of all that trauma that I went through as a kid, because it's like, man, this is what I always try to get people to understand. It's like no matter what you're going through, if it's hard, there's a nugget in there. Find that nugget, and only focus on the nugget. And that's what I did. I'm just like, God, I'm so tough. I'm so resilient. I don't believe, and again, this is just what I tell myself, but I don't believe there's a human being on this earth who's more resilient and tougher than I am, as far as like, I'm a loving, sweet, kind person who's always happy, always. I'm always happy, but yet, I just don't. I see people and I see like, oh, they're broken from pain or heartbreak or trauma, and it's like I'm like, I'm not. I didn't let it break me. It made me. I'm so resilient. So I just feel like I tell people that it's like, if you could switch the pain and the trauma into like a blessing or a gift or empowerment, like I have, like, God, I'm so tough. I'm so resilient. I love that about myself. Woo-hoo. Like, it's like you can just move beyond it, right?
Yeah. Was there like a defining turning point for you when you said, I'm not going to be a victim anymore. I'm going to use this and use that as a strength? Or is it kind of like a gradual thing over time? You kind of just develop that resilience.
Well, I never really fully dealt with it. Like, so I always had that trauma, right? And I went through phases where I'll be good, and that's kind of one thing I said in my. So I have the Everyday Guy journal, right? So it's an interactive journal now, and I said that right in the very beginning of the book. I kind of just give a quick little synopsis that, up until I was almost 40, I would just kind of like, I'd be good for a while and then I'd slip, and I'd be good and then I'd slip, because I never really dealt with the underlying problem, which was like, why did I have to suffer that way? Why, the regret, right? Like, why didn't somebody help me? Why didn't anybody care? Why did, this have to happen? Why did that have to happen? I never really dealt with that. So it always would pop up, like when I was in a weakened state, when things were maybe starting to go a little bit bad, all of a sudden it would creep its ugly head, and it would be like, you see, you remember, you're a piece of garbage. And remember your mom said you're a piece of garbage, and the teachers who locked you away in the janitor's room because nobody cared about you, they thought you were a piece of garbage, and blah, 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 blah. And then I'd be broken for a while until I found a way out of it. So I'd kind of go through these cycles for pretty much my whole life, until finally, when I was almost to 40, I just kind of broke down. I just basically broke down. I was coaching boxing. I was coaching boxing at a boxing tournament, and all the aggressive energy or whatever, I don't know what it was, but I started having a breakdown in the hotel after the fights where I was like in the corner, I'm coaching people, and all of a sudden I just started crying. And we were in Nanaimo. So I basically I called a friend. I'm like, a girlfriend. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. And she's like, well, just get yourself home. So I came home, and I basically cried for 2 weeks, and like uncontrollably. And I just started to kind of go like, why was life so hard for me? Why did I have to suffer that way? Why? I didn't deserve that. And that's how it started. And then I was like over those 2 weeks, I kind of went from feeling like a victim to feeling like, my mom and my dad and the people that didn't do enough for me, they did the best that they could with what they had. And I did the best that I could do with what I had. I was a broken person. I was a person that screwed up many ways. I was a person that made a million mistakes in my life, but I didn't know better. I was doing the best I could with what I had, but now I know more. Now I know that they did the best that they could. They didn't have the tools to help me. I didn't have the tools to reach out for help, but now I do. Now I know. And now I understand that I'm still here. I'm 39 years old or whatever I was at that time. And I am basically a good person. My wife loves me. My daughter, I have this great connection with my daughter, despite all of our trauma. And I just kind of started to look at it like flip it around. It's like, you know what? Everybody did the best that they could. It was what it was. Let's just focus on going forward. So I just said, you know what? What a life it was up to that point. It's pretty crazy. Like, there's a lot of stories that came out of it. It made me a boxer. It give me all these amazing experiences as a bouncer. It pushed me to become this bodybuilder and open up a gym and open up a personal training studio and all these different kinds of things that I did. And it's like, okay, you know what? Let's just focus on the good parts of it, and don't ever look back on regrets, because it made you this super resilient, tough person. Now what are you going to do with it? Move forward. And I just made a decision. I'm like, that's it. I'm never looking back with regret. And I said, and that's where I came up with these tools that are in the Everyday Guy journal. I always talk about the happiness line, and I talk about a highlight reel, and I talk about an empowered mantra. But all of those things kind of came out of this buildup to where I was 39. I just kind of had a breakdown. And I said, I'm not wasting one more second of my life being unhappy. And that was kind of the thing in my head. I'm not wasting one more moment of my life on regret or unhappiness. And then I came up with the happiness line. I said, that's it. Every day when I wake up, I'm going to say, am I happy or am I not? And if I'm not happy, I'm going to deal with it right away. Why am I not happy? Well, because I'm remembering when I was 5. Yeah, but what happened when you were 5 made you strong. Let's go on. Like, I would just find a way. No matter what. I'm like, I'm waking up, and if I'm not happy, I'm dealing with it. And then throughout the day, I'm going to imagine a line. This is what I told myself when I was 39 or whatever it was. I said, there's a line. Anything below this line is some level of unhappiness. Anything above this line is some level of happiness, all the way up to self-actualization, which is like the peak of happiness, in my opinion. My job for the rest of my life is to never dip below that line. And if I ever feel myself dipping below this line, nothing is more important to me than making sure I get back above the line. And that's what I said. At that moment, I said, I'm never going below that line, ever in my life, ever again. And I never have. And I just basically stuck true to that. I was like, I'm a very, very determined person. When I set my mind on something, I was like, that's it. I'm just going to make sure that I manage where I am on that line from now on. And then I came up with that's where the highlight reel that I talk about in the journal comes from. It's like, well, what do you do when you start feeling depressed? What do you do when you feel like you're kind of losing control? What do you do? Well, there's a million things you could think about, like, like a time when you were successful. You can have a great memory, like, wow, I feel like my life doesn't mean anything. I feel like I'm a failure. I feel like I'm not going anywhere. But look at all the places I have gone. Look at all the things I have done. Look at all the amazing things I have experienced. My life has been pretty amazing. All of a sudden you're shifting your perspective, or oh, this person's talking to me like a piece of garbage. Yeah, but they don't know who I am. They don't remember that. They don't know that I'm like a super resilient person. They don't know that I was like flown to England to represent as a boxer. They don't know that I was like, they don't know this stuff. I know it though. I know it's low. So I can just smile and just say, just smile at their ignorance and not knowing what an incredible life I've had, right? And just keep reframing these things, and the highlight and the empowering mantra, hands up, chin down, no pain. I use that as a boxer. When I was a boxer, I would, before every single sparring session and every single fight, anytime I thought like even a little bit of like nervousness, I'd be like, you know what? Hands up, chin down, no pain. Do the work, protect yourself as best you can, and then just get in there, man. Life couldn't beat you. Somebody hits you, or somebody knocks you down. It doesn't matter. It's like you're way tougher than that. No pain, no pain. Pain is temporary, but you're way tougher than that. So that's where the hands up, chin down, no pain came from. So then I put all of that together. Like, I'm not dropping below this line. I'm going to make sure I'm constantly reminding myself of all these great moments, or all these great qualities, or all these great experiences I've had. And then I'm going to constantly, if I feel any doubt, hands up, chin down, no pain. You may get knocked down, but you're going to get up every time. When you do, you're going to be a little stronger. You're going to be a little stronger. You're going to be a little bit better, and you're going to be a little bit more resilient. And you're going to be able to add that to your highlight reel so that it becomes harder to knock you down next time, until eventually you'll never get knocked down. And that's what I did. And I just stayed true to that. And I basically, since right around the time I turned 40, I made those decisions, and I've been happy pretty much every day since.
Yeah. So seeing that you're able to take all that trauma and flip it around and use it as a growth tool. When did the Goliath Foundation come into play? Like, when did you decide, hey, I'm going to launch a foundation and I'm going to try to impact other people's lives?
Well, that was a gradual process, right? Because the Goliath Foundation, like, even when I was when I was still in the city, I live in Gibsons. I live my wife and I moved from Vancouver to Gibsons in 2004. But even before that, when I was boxing, I'd get invited to do bullying talks at some of the fights, and I was doing a lot of corporate boxing, and I would get invited by the police to come and talk to the officers and talk to kids, and I was doing a lot of corporate boxing. So it was kind of a process anyways, where the Goliath Foundation was started with me just kind of spreading this knowledge of teaching boxing. But if I teach you boxing, you got to have, with more power comes more respect. So you got to be respectful to others. You can't use what I taught to hurt other people. And so the Goliath Foundation was me kind of going into the schools, teaching boxing as a way to manage emotions and find non-violent conflict resolution for kids, and it just was a process that kind of came out of that, like where I started working more in the schools. I ended up having my after-school boxing program. I ended up running the Gloves Off program with another youth worker, and it just was a process until eventually I just said, well, let's put the work that I'm doing with youth and with anti-bullying and with nonviolent conflict resolution under the umbrella of the Goliath Foundation. And it just kind of has been a process, right? And it just has grown from that. And then Everyday Guy is kind of where we're at now with the business, is really the best parts of that expansion of growth, from me as a bouncer and a boxer into the Goliath Foundation, into a very distinct understanding of how I can help young men in midlife, all kinds of people discover these tools that I worked so hard to discover, so that you never have to experience unhappiness, not for long, because you have these tools, you have these skills, if you choose to use them, that will always put you in a position of empowerment and self-love and self-actualization, which is the ultimate state of a human being, I think, is to be the best version of yourself, right? That life has made you. Like everybody wants something different. Like for me, I wanted to feel like I mattered. Like, so to me, self-actualization is knowing that I matter, right? And for some people it might be love, some people might be family, some people might be whatever, but if you understand the tools so that you can guide yourself to never feel like you're threatened by negativity, or not overly threatened by negativity or negative circumstances, so that you could focus on consistently aligning yourself with that self-actualized version of yourself, then you can start to embody it and live it until it becomes just a habit and it becomes who you are, right?
Yeah.
Does that all make sense?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, for me, my goal is to continuously improve myself and just be a better person, more loving, caring person. I did read through your journal. I thought it was really interesting and useful. There's a lot of good insights in there. Is there like a specific target audience for your book, for your journal? Sorry.
Absolutely. I would say, anybody from 18 to 50, really. Like, so I kind of really think it's like young men trying to find their way, and midlife men who are just kind of like, who maybe have been lost for a while. They kind of got sucked into this narrative where it's like I'm going to work all the time, and I'm going to get in this rat race, and I'm going to make sure that I keep up with the Joneses, and then all of a sudden find themselves like, wow, what happened to my life? Like, what happened to the dreams I had? What happened to me feeling like this life was magical, which I did at one point? I think for those people as well, I think the Everyday Guy journal and the overall impact of the Everyday Guy branding that we have is appeals to mostly to those that demographic, between that the young man and the young man looking for answers, and the older man kind of going like, where did I get lost, and trying to find his way back to himself.
Yeah. And that journal, that's digital, right? And it's available online.
It's just being released, and well, I guess it depends on when this gets edited. But
so just because I've seen it doesn't mean it's actually out yet. It's not.
No. Yeah, I gave you a copy. I gave you so you got the copy that doesn't have any of the links, right? So the Everyday Guy journal, the released copy is what you read, but it's also got the QR codes so that people could go to listen to the episodes of the podcast. Because me and Willow my daughter Willow and I did over 80 episodes so far. I mean, I think we just yesterday we filmed episode 85 of the Love and Goliath podcast, which basically is a father and a daughter, my daughter Willow, discussing all the lessons I've learned from this life of surrounded by trauma and drama and drug dealers and drug, and violence and this and that. Like just like discovering having a discussion about like how you overcome that, how you deal with it, how you find peace with it. So the Everyday Guy Journal has QR codes and links so that people can kind of go through the readable part that you went through, go through the journaling prompts, and click on the podcast and get ideas and insights and hear it from the horse's mouth, some motivation or some experiences that they maybe need to be reminded about, like how to overcome it or give them some cues. And this is kind of like 1.0 Everyday Guy the Everyday Guy Journal, the first version, right? Because we just wanted to continue to expand as people start to use it and add their input, like through the Everyday Guy website, and just tell us what they think about it. Oh, I wish there was a bit more of this. Can you answer this question? I'm really struggling with this. What would you do? And then the next version will start to answer more of those questions. And the next version will start to answer more questions, so that we're trying to make it very interactive in that people are sharing it, they're listening to the podcast, they're going through it, they're using the steps, they're joining, they're subscribing to the Everyday Guy website, they're adding their input, and we're hearing from them. We're hearing what people need. We're hearing what people want. And so this is the first one to get people going, to get people thinking, to try to help people. And I feel very, very proud of this first one, but it's not the end. We have so much. We're so excited about all the things that are coming out of the Everyday Guy website right now. I mean, so there's this first journal where we've been talking about a little Everyday Guy app to start to kind of give people an experiential journey of putting these tools into practice, a little mini game. We've got a streaming series that we've been working on, and we've got online support. We've got the program. There's a million different things that we're kind of like so excited to share with people and continuing to develop, because everybody learns in a different way. Everybody needs support in a slightly different way. They're going to hear what they're ready to hear in a different way. So just try to kind of reach people with basically the same type of messaging, but in different ways, right? Through different vehicles.
So do you have release dates for any of those things, like your journal and your TV series and all that?
Well, the journal is, I think it was going to get posted on again. I mean, my daughter, my wife, and our team. I'm a creator, but I think it's supposed to be getting released today. But
oh, wow.
But so anyways, if people go to the most important thing is that people go to the Everyday Guy website.
Yeah.
Everyday Guy website, subscribe, and then you'll get updates on the different things that we're doing. But you also be able to see where they can find everything. You'll be able to see the link to the Amazon link, and you'll be able to kind of just peruse some of the different offerings that we're coming up with.
Yeah.
So
yeah, sounds like. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah. So I mean, that's what I was saying to anybody. It's just go check out the Everyday Guy website and subscribe, and you'll get some helpful free tips just out of that. You can book anybody can book a free consultation with me once they go onto the website and subscribe. So yeah, just there's a lot of things that we're doing, but that's where you can find it all.
That journal is going to be able for free, like people can use it for free?
No, you're gonna have to you can book a free call with me.
Yeah.
You can book a free, but the book is not free.
The journal?
The journal is not free. No.
So how do people get it? is it like a subscription? Is it a one-time thing?
Yeah, well, like I say, it's going to be. I think it's supposed to be going on to Amazon today, but you can either go to Amazon or just go to our website and click the Amazon link to the book. Right? It's just kind of like we did because you bought the original Killing Goliath or the one that you read by going to the website that we had back then, the Goliath Foundation website, and clicking the Amazon, didn't you?
Yeah, you sent me a link. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe that's what I. But anyways, yeah, people could just go to the website and go to the Amazon link, right?
So
I mean,
the,
yeah,
the web-
but
so the website right now is people's best bet if they want to learn more about you and what you're offering, and if just looking
absolutely,
for some guidance.
absolutely, everyday guy.
Hey,
Life.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll add the link in my description there. But
that's where all the information is. And like I say, people could book a free call with me. I don't know if you probably have kind of got this from me, but I don't do any of this stuff for money. I mean, I need to make a living, obviously, but for me, I just want to help people. I've always wanted to just help people. I wanted to take this experience and and like, wow, like look at everything I've learned. Look at everything I've learned from all those crazy experiences, being around, drug dealers and gangsters, having my friends killed, killed in gang wars, like all this stuff. I've learned so many lessons. So to me, it's not about I got to make a living, of course. So I can't give everything away for free, but just being able to have somebody come to the website and get a feeling of hope and being able to book a free call with me and maybe get directed to some tool that whether it's the journal or the online program or some one-on-one support or one of our quarterly calls or whatever it is, just knowing that I can kind of guide people in ways that makes me feel like none of that stuff went to waste. It all is being used to help people. That's what I love.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's the tough one. I mean, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I'd love to just be able to help people, but you need resources to do that, right? So you can't do it all for free. And I will say, like I've said at the start of the show, you had an impact on me, both in my physical fitness and in just coping with my demons. And I would strongly encourage anybody who, if they're struggling with whatever they're having their own battles, that they check out your website and reach out to you, because I know that you have a great impact on people. So yeah.
Well, again, I love people, and I'm so grounded that I can just kind of be. I can be. I don't know. I can just hear people. I can hear their questions, right? I can just hear like I so desperately want to be happy. I so desperately want to overcome this problem or this trauma or this struggle. It's like I see that. Just let's tweak you this way. Like let's get you going this way. Like let's give you some little steps, some little tips, some little habits that'll get you kind of pointed in the right direction, and it'll cause a little bit of a flame, a little spark, and then you turn that spark into a flame. And next thing you know, it's just going to be like out of control, and you'll be like, wow, I can't believe how amazing my life is. Right? That's what I love.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great way to wrap things up, Ben. I mean, that's a great message. Is there anything else you feel that you need to get out before we close off?
Not really. I feel like I rambled a little bit.
Yeah, you were a great talker. I didn't do a lot of talking in this episode, which is probably great because I'm not feeling the best. But no, like I said, your story really resonates. I love that you're vulnerable and that you're willing to share all these struggles and personal experiences that you've gone through. And I think that makes people more receptive to opening up themselves and, reaching out for help and guidance. So thank you for taking that step and kind of guiding others.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it's funny because I feel no need to share my story. I don't go around like, talking about my story, except the fact that it's like I it doesn't bother me to share my story, and I always want people to understand that. Listen, I'm not some guy that just went to help people one-on-one class, right? I went through the school of hard knocks to learn this stuff, right? So I've been there, right? So that's the only reason why I really enjoy sharing my story. But
Well, I'm glad you did, man, because it's definitely helped me. So I know it'll help others. Thank you very much, Ben.
thank you very much for chatting with me.
Anytime. I'd love to do this again when I'm feeling a little bit better, and maybe once some of your projects I've taken off a little bit further, progress a little further.
For sure. Like I said, it's all happening. So
I can't wait to hear more about it.
cool,
Okay,
man.
take care, Ben.
You too, man.
See ya.
Thanks.